What's your "oh, you're not joking" moment?
I was eating ice cream and an old guy walking into the ice cream parlor said, "Oh, that looks good. I'm gonna get a spoon." I smiled and laughed awkwardly, until his damn spoon was in my ice cream.
I work at a hotel. We have this regular who comes, but usually makes reservations ahead of time. And she has her favorite room she tries to get. Well, one day she walked in, asking for a room. I had rooms available, but not the one she wanted. And she replied, "Oh, call the guests in that room and tell them to move out so I can have it." I seriously thought that was a joke and I played along, saying, "I'll get right on that," as I was getting her info in the computer. All of a sudden she said, "Aren't you going to call them?" "Call who?" "Those guests in that room so I can have it." "Oh, you really weren't joking." I told her that we don't do that. If she wanted that room she needed to call ahead. "I have a room. I know it's not your preferred room, but it's all I've got. And you can take it or leave it. But I'm not moving a guest out." She seemed almost taken aback by that. But I told her that if she didn't take the room I had she wouldn't get anything. She calls ahead now, but I was mortified and shocked she actually tried this stunt. And actually meant it.
Had an old lady ask me when her dog would grow its leg back after an amputation.
Used to work at a big bank that bought out another, somewhat smaller but still pretty big bank about 10 years ago. Some guy came in all pissed off because we didn't send him a new debit card with the new bank's logo on it. They intentionally made it so the old ones would continue working until they were originally set to expire. Said it was embarrassing. I can't be the only person who's gotten upset over this. Right? Quote, "Yeah homie. You were." Had a neighbor who was a single guy in his 40s. Divorced. Had a college-age daughter that stayed with him half the time. Seemed like they were having a sort of family reunion one weekend. And I saw him talking with others out on his back deck. A little while later I went over to ask to borrow something. His daughter answered and I asked if her dad was there. She said her dad was dead. And I just chuckled and was like, haha, yeah right. She just looked at me and turned around crying and went back inside. Her mom, his ex-wife, came out right away and saw I was confused, shocked, and very apologetic. She was really nice about it, saying it had just happened and was the first time the daughter had had to answer the door. Apparently he had committed suicide. I obviously felt so terrible. Apologized profusely. I thought for sure I had just seen him. And the way the daughter had announced it seemed almost light-hearted. Turns out who I saw on the back deck was his brother, who looked a lot like him. And all the family was there for the funeral. Have a relative who got a ton of help from us when they came to this country. Checked in on his family. Signed his kid up for sport. Helped them move. Gave them furniture. Gave them heaters when they didn't have heat. Etc. etc. My pregnant wife was assembling his dad's bed while he was at work. Once he got on his feet and found some friends, he ghosted me. No call. No text. Missed my kids' birthdays. Not even an invite for a cup of tea. Recently got a call from him trying to sell me a car. That segued into talking about how he wants to move to another city. I'm wondering where he's gonna get the money to do it, but overall like, haha. Yeah, I heard it's nice. That turned into wanting the down payment to be deposited into his account. And/or a co-signer. Yeah. After politely declining for the sake of my father, I was told, okay, I won't keep you, bye. Quote. Getting ready for a road trip. Multiple vehicles. Not everyone knows each other. Him. We should exchange phone numbers in case we get separated. Me. Oh, I have your number. Got it from Dan. I'll call you quick so you have mine. Call him and hang up as soon as it rings. Him. Okay, got it. Let me call you so you have mine too. Me. What? Quote. Him. Calls me. Me. Confused look.jpg. Him. Did you get it? Was in an informal meeting with someone that I was doing a project with. We were both self-employed and in the same industry, so our meetings were a lot more casual than a regular office context. He, a healthy, active, early 60-something, starts talking jokingly about his imminent demise and death with me and the client. Now he's got an odd sense of humor and often jokes about strange stuff. So I smiled and laughed politely. He and the client stop and look at me and say, "Oh, we haven't told you." Flushed. My heart sinks as they share that he has been having strange aphasic episodes. That it's getting worse. And they think he has a couple years left. I'm just a deer in headlights at this point. The meeting quickly ends. And I leave feeling terrible. That was about 6 years ago. He was able to get a diagnosis of a rare form of epilepsy. Got on medication. And to my knowledge hasn't had an episode. Seizure. Since. Still makes weird jokes though. Context. I work in telecom. Memorizing measurements and clearances is very important for my job. I was 22 at the time this happened. My coworker doing my training was 51. My coworker is quizzing me on some basic training material and asks, "How far does a have to be from B?" Quote. I tell him, 1 foot. He looks at me and says, "That's wrong. It needs to be 12 inches away." I started laughing and jokingly said something along the line of, "Haha. Ya got me there." Only to turn back to see him looking upset and confused. I asked him if he was good and he said, "You're a month in and this is very important. You shouldn't be getting this wrong. You have to be 12 inches away. Not a foot." I stared at him in disbelief for at least 20 seconds trying to figure out if he was joking or not. He was not. Had to have a very awkward conversation afterwards where I explained that 12 inches and a foot were the same distance. This coworker was notorious for deflecting responsibility and refusing to admit when he was wrong. So he ended it with, "Well, I guess if you want to think of it that way." I've got a few more similar stories about the guy. Luckily he wasn't my boss. Just a coworker that got stuck training me for a while. He somehow lasted well over a year and a half after that before getting fired back in April. By that time I had been promoted and no longer worked in the same department as him. In a strange way, I do miss him sometimes. He certainly was a personality. Edit. For those saying, "Oh well, he may have been trying to be precise and some measurements need decimals, and whatever. These didn't. They are basic telecom clearance heights measured with a glorified yardstick." Just enjoy a story about a man being a dumbass without trying to be the smartest person in the room. For once. My brother telling me I needed to request off the weekend. It was Thursday. Because he was getting married. Due to his fiancée being pregnant. Then when I told him I needed at least a month's notice to request off, he told me to just quit my job. He hasn't spoken to me in a month because his, I guess then fiancée, didn't like me and thought I was trying to steal my brother from her. My boss was understanding since I had been a model employee for the last few years. I got the weekend off. Saturday morning I see my brother. Ask him if he was sure he wanted to go through with it. He told me I was no longer invited to the wedding. They were divorced within the year. I was working for Starbucks. And a customer ordered a caramel Madagascar. So I laughed thinking it was a joke. And repeated it back correctly as a caramel macchiato. He was not joking. And called me pretentious for pronouncing it correctly and to not name drinks hard to read words. Started coaching college basketball in the fall of 2020. Second day there. Girl had been sick and went to the doctor to see if she had COVID. She came to meet with me and the head coach and said jokingly, or at least I thought, Well, I don't have COVID, but I am pregnant. I laughed thinking she was actually joking, but she was dead serious. Tangentially mine. The other day, while sitting at a table outside the Sunset Grill, with advertising for their famous all-day breakfast plastered up the front of the building, an older couple comes up to the host stand outside and asks for a table. The husband speaks up before they are sat and asks, "Do you guys do all-day breakfast?" The host immediately thinks he's just being a typical older gentleman trying to get a laugh. So she does, as anyone who survives off tips would, which was immediately met with a less than enthusiastic, "What's so funny?" quote, while she tries to compose herself surrounded by signs saying, "Famous all-day breakfast." The wife just looked at him the entire time, asking if he even once looked around him at all today. When my ex-GF told me she was getting a tattoo with my name on it, we were together for only 6 months. I thought she was trying to just say it to sound cute and told her not to do it BC we are too young for that kind of stuff. 18 and 19 respectively. But a few days later I met with her and she showed me the tat. One of the many reasons I broke up with her. At a friend's watching television. The friend's older brother and his friend are outside. Suddenly the brother's friend comes barreling inside saying the older brother cut his finger off. We were, yeah, sure. Then the brother comes in holding his hand. We were still not believing either one of them. So the brother shoves his half a bloody digit in our faces. A very sarcastic, hilarious guy posted about going to see God on Facebook. I replied with something snarky along the lines of the old, "Have you found Jesus?" I didn't know he was missing. Joke. His wife posted it to let everyone know he died of a heart attack. This guy came back professing his love for me in the most passive-aggressive way after ghosting me for 2 months. No calls answered. No texts. Nothing. When he ghosted me, I was heartbroken. Took some time to myself to heal and stay single. You know the drill. He texted me out of blue asking if we could talk. We met up and he told me he did some soul searching and dated a few girls and went to therapy. And told me he realized I was the one, and said how I'd regret not giving him a second chance. Because I had no clue how happy he'd make me. I thought this was some ploy to get me to sleep with him until he proposed immediately after. I worked as a supervisor for a travel agency that specialized in cruises. If you booked a cruise online through a 1-800 number that wasn't the cruise line directly, we probably handled your vacation. Lady had called in during the life of the booking and managed to bitch her way to some free on-board credit and a birthday celebration for her husband on my company's dime. Well, the cruise line messed up and did the decorations a day too early. She called from the ship via guest relations to bitch at us about it. One of the complaints was the decorations were ugly. They were basically glorified Party City decorations but done in that cruise line branding. She demanded it be fixed. I thought she was only talking about them being up too early. I told her I could ask the cruise line to put them up the next day instead. She then asked how I was going to fix the other part. I was confused at first about what she was asking. She then proceeded to start all over about the ugliness of the decorations. I straight up asked her how she would like me to get her new decorations that didn't involve a helicopter or me swimming out to the ship. After that, she finally let me get off the line. Sent an email to the rest of the supervisor team saying that woman gets zero comp or refunds ever again. When I was in high school, I worked as a cashier at a big box store. An older woman was checking out at my lane one day. I was just scanning things as they came down the belt without paying much attention. This woman had put a ton of baby food on my belt, but I didn't think anything of it. I'm making the usual small talk when the elderly woman goes, Well, this is the only thing my husband can eat anymore, and gestured toward the jars of baby food. I laughed out loud, thinking at first she was joking. Until I saw her face. I was shocked and felt horrible when I realized she was dead serious. I apologized, finished ringing her up, and then felt very sad for her husband and for her. I met the dean of a medical school. He was telling me how he always liked math until they started using letters instead of numbers. I thought he was doing like a comedy bit, and he had me rolling. The more he explained himself, the funnier it seemed. Eventually I realized he was serious, and just had a quirky intonations that always made it sound like he was joking.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.